Hey, how's it going, guys? I've been slowing down a little bit on uploads, but I thought I'd give you my thoughts on Tunic. This is a Zelda-like action RPG from a very small development studio, and it's honestly a really good attempt at making a Zelda clone, and I mean that in the best sense of the word. There are a lot of games and genres that we could use more of on PC, games that try to either be completely original, or games that try to ape old titles that just aren't really being made anymore. Now, that might sound weird because I'm saying, hey, yeah, it's a Zelda game, and there's not any of those being made. Well, that's kind of true, because when you think about it, we do get 3D Zelda games coming out with big gaps in between, but we do have them coming out. But when it comes to the isometric Zelda game, the wait times are quite long. The last one we had was that Link's Awakening remake on the Nintendo Switch, and before that, I believe it was A Link Between Worlds, at least the major one before that. And while that game was excellent, it was quite a while ago. So I myself personally have been waiting almost 10 years for a brand new isometric Zelda game, and the remake doesn't even scratch that itch. It's not a completely original game, it's not a completely new game in the franchise, and to top it off, there were some problems with that game. There was the art style, which a lot of people didn't like, and of course that it was just the same game again, just not as good, arguably, as the Game Boy version. But Tunic, on the other hand, this game right here, is great. Now, again, I've only played a little bit more than 2 hours, so this is, again, my Quickie series. This is not my First Impression series. First Impression series, we look at games 3 to 4 hours. Tunic, about 2, so take it with a grain of salt here. Things could change, and I think they might. Because, while I do like a lot about this game, there's great puzzle solving, there's great little adventure aspects, finding secrets, there is a lot to not like about this game. For example, the combat system. It's just a little too slow, a little too clunky, and ultimately there's a lot of just unnecessary lag and just animation delay and all kinds of little problems. If you've ever played a character action game like Bayonetta or Metal Gear Rising, by no means am I asking any game that, has character action elements to be like these games all the time, just laser focused on being like some crazy fast spectacle fighter. There is a problem in this game where just the attacks are a little too slow, a little too delayed, but by no means is it necessarily bad. It's just not that great. And I can just foresee problems later on, because the game is actually kind of challenging. And that is refreshing, but that can be a problem with the combat system, because of course, once you start to throw a lot of enemies in really obnoxious areas, the game can get a lot more frustrating than you'd think. So that's a bit of a problem. However, because it actually has some challenge to it, it makes it, in my opinion, a little bit more engaging than newer Zelda titles. I always feel that newer Zelda games just are a little bit too much on the easy side, unless we maybe talk about the isometric ones, but even then, that's hit or miss. This one, it was thoroughly challenging, in my opinion. Now, the consequences for dying are linked to basically a Dark Souls system, although not as punishing. You lose some of these, I guess you could call them currency when you die, and you use that currency to upgrade your character when you find little items on the map. So there's a finite amount of times you can upgrade your character. It's not like Souls where you can just grind infinitely and do a lot of repetition in order to power up your character. No, there's limits and hard caps here depending on where you are in the game based on these other items you have to collect throughout the overworld to upgrade yourself. You can upgrade your defense, your attack, stuff like that. You can also get health potions, additional health potions, like you can increase your maximum, which are refilled at these shrines. When you die, you go to the shrine, you get your health back, and you get these potions refilled, but you lose about 20 of these little currencies, so you don't lose everything when you die. That's kind of a benefit if you really don't like the Souls-style combat, but you're like, oh, okay, I can kind of put up with it, but I just wish it wasn't so punishing when you died. Well, here you go. It's actually pretty easy to get your souls back, or your coins back, or currency, whatever it is. That's another thing about this game. It's really hard to call anything what it is in this game because everything is cryptic, for a reason though. There is a illegible language in this game. You can't really read it. You get all these prompts in this completely foreign language, native to the game, and you actually don't know what it says. So oftentimes you have to find pieces of a manual, basically a video game manual, and you can use this manual to decipher what everything is saying. So you can figure out what items do, you can figure out where to go, what abilities do what. It's really nice to actually just kind of be dropped into a game. That's another thing. The game just drops you in. There's no cutscenes like in Zelda, the 3D Zelda games, I should say. you just kind of start and go. And because everything's a little cryptic, everything's a little mysterious, it's kind of nice to just jump into this foreign world and figure out, like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Okay, this manual says this. Okay, I gotta get more pieces of this thing to figure out what this does. It's not spelled out for you, and I really like that. Now, of course, there's a bit of a problem with that. There are items in this game that are kind of finite. Doesn't seem you can buy them sometimes, or at least not yet. So when I get an item out of a chest, I'm like, okay, this is cool, but I have no idea what it does. So the only way to know what it does is by using it. But if it ends up being useless, like, oh, it's a potion that fully restores your health, not gives you a boost in your attack. So I just wasted it because I was already at full health, you know? Or, oh, okay, I gotta kill this enemy, let me throw this dynamite at him, and oh, he blocked it with his shield, I guess. I guess it's only good for certain enemies. You have to experiment, and because these items are kind of finite, you kind of don't want to experiment, because you'll lose them, and that kind of sucks. But overall, I found the game to be quite interesting to explore. I think that's the main thing. It held my attention because I really wanted to, like, okay, I want to get the sword now. Okay, now where's the shield? I got the shield, I can get past this part now. Okay, these enemies are easier to fight. Okay, now we're in the sewer segment, now it's harder again because of the enemy types and how it works. Okay, I want to go over here. Oh, shoot, now I got the lantern. Okay, now I can go to this darker place. Now, there are still a couple issues I have here and there. Sometimes the game is a little too dark. The game uses some darker colors for its palette, and for underground areas, especially the sewers, I was legitimately having a hard time seeing, like, where the entrances were and where to go. So, thankfully, you can update the brightness in the game, but it is obnoxious for how dark everything is. It's just a little annoying. There are some obnoxious combat segments, but once you get used to the controls, you can kind of deal with that. But I do feel like later on, if the game starts to ramp up the challenge, which apparently a lot of people are complaining about, if the game starts ramping up the challenge a little bit too much, I could see it being very frustrating. But overall, you know, 2 hours in, I do actually want to play this game more and complete it, and that's more than I can say about a lot of other games. Usually I have to hit the 3 to 4 hour mark to be like, okay, I can see myself finishing this, or no, I don't want to play this anymore. And this game didn't really take that long for me to really get into it. I'd say 2 hours I really got into it, and from minute 1 I'd say I was kind of hooked to begin with, so that's great. If you're looking for a Zelda-like on PC and you're fine with a couple liberties, this is an excellent game. The sound mixing is terrific. The music, I feel, is mostly fitting for something that's more relaxing and mysterious, but it doesn't really invoke the sense of adventure I'm looking for, especially in the overworld. But otherwise, I really enjoyed my time with this game, and I want to play some more of it. So, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm out.